Hey, I'm Jason Laughlin and welcome to the channel. In this lesson, I'm going to show you why it's so important that you see major scales weave their way through major chord shapes. Knowing this stuff can help you have a deeper understanding of harmony, play better rhythm guitar parts, and play better solos that actually target the changes. Before we get started, if you dig this lesson, please hit the subscribe button and the like button. That stuff helps me out a lot. Okay, so let's talk about our chord shape that we're going to be using for this lesson. I'm going to use a C major chord with the root here on the 3rd fret of the 5th string. For those of you that use the cage system, which is really helpful for learning all your major chord shapes around the neck, this is your A-shaped C major chord. So what often happens is I'll have new students come to me and they'll know a lot of these common bar chords, but they won't be able to locate the root 3rd and 5th quickly within the shape. And if you don't know where those things are, then how do you know how to embellish them? Because each one of those chord tones, root 3rd and 5th, has a different feeling against the chord. And knowing how to embellish it is what helps us make better rhythm guitar parts and better choices when we're soloing. So this is our shape. I want to see all the notes of the major scale, C major scale, weave its way through the C major shape. So I need to know what the major scale formula is, and I need to know what a half step and whole step looks like across strings. And then knowing that allows me to do this. And play every available note through that shape. That's going to help me find those chord tones, and it's also going to help me have a high way to connect those chord tones and be able to improvise or make new harmony out of this major chord. If that's something you don't know how to do, or you only know the major scale from a couple of positions or a couple of patterns, it's really important that you could build a major scale from any finger, any string, any position. I have a course out that takes you through 10 lessons that shows you all the major scale theory, shows you how to build them on a single string, across strings using that formula, half steps and whole steps, building them through major chord shapes or the cage shapes, doing them 3 notes per strings, and then learning a bunch of common major scale patterns. I'll put that link to that course down below. Go check it out. Even if you're someone who's been playing for a while, I find that there's a lot of lessons in that course that fill in a lot of blind spots for folks. Okay, so let's talk about the major scale formula. How do we build a major scale? We need to know how to do this. Every scale has a formula like a cake recipe, and the formula consists of half steps and whole steps, and the major scale is no different. The major scale formula is whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. And if we start from any note and we follow that formula, we will end up with a major scale. So let's do that with our root note of our chord shape here. The key is we have to stay in position. So this is where it's really important that I see half steps and whole steps while I'm crossing strings. So I start on my root and I go up a whole step to the 2 there. Now I'm going to go up a whole step to the 3. So there's a chord tone I didn't know was there. It's not part of the shape. Now I'm going to go up a half step, but I have to cross strings because I need to stay in position. So half step to the 4, always a half step between 3 and 4. Then a whole step up to a 5. Oh, well, there's another chord tone. So 5, whole step up to the 6, whole step up to the 7. I need to stay in position, so I need to cross strings. Half step up to the root. So there's another note as part of the shape here. So from there, I have a 1 octave major scale, and that doesn't cover everything I can do. So let's extend past that octave and see what we get. So I have another root here. I'm going to go up a whole step up to the 2, whole step to the 3, half step to the 4, whole step to the 5, whole step to the 6, whole step to the 7. So I can get to the 7, almost 2 octaves. So I also have another E string here I haven't even touched yet. So let's extend down past this shape. So root down to the 7, which is a half step away, whole step to the 6, whole step to the 5. So now all the available notes are starting from the 5 all the way up to that high 7 in this position. So now I can see where all my chord tones are, what they are, root 5, root 3. And I could see some of the chord tones that aren't included in that shape, like a 5 down here or a 3 here. So I also could see how I could embellish this chord. If this is my root, I can see the 7 below it. I could see the 2 above it. This is my 5th. I could see a 4 below it and a 6 above it. If this is my octave root, there's a 7, and here's a 2 or an add 9. And I could also do that add 9 here. If this is my 3, I have a 4 a half step higher. I have a 2 right below it. And then if I grab this 5 up here, I have a 5 here, 4 a whole step below, or a 6 a whole step higher than that 5. So I have all my points of resolve or my destination notes, and now I can see all the notes I need to embellish that chord shape. Okay, one of my favorite things about knowing the scale and the chord shapes that really helps to open up the neck for a lot of students is that from one shape, you're able to make a bunch of different chords. And this is really helpful if you know the cage shapes and you're applying it to all 5 positions up and down the neck, because you don't have to memorize a bunch of chord shapes. You could build these chord shapes from anywhere. So the C chord, I'm going to first try to make a C sus4 chord. So I'm going to find the 4th note of the scale and incorporate it into this shape. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll replace the 5 with the 4. There's a C sus4. I had that other 4 up here. There's 2 C sus4s now in this position. Okay, how about a C6 chord? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. To incorporate that A into this shape. That's a cool C6 chord, not one that gets used all the time. It's a little bit of a stretch, but it sounds great. We have another 6 up here. How about a major 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we had that other 7 all the way up here. How about an add 9? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Root 8, octave 9 comes after that. There's a C add 9 chord. So we just got a bunch of new chords out of that one chord shape. And you don't have to memorize the shapes. We built it with our knowledge of the scale. And by doing it, it also opens up a lot of shapes that you may not commonly use, but sound really great. So one of the benefits of that, besides knowing a bunch of shapes across the neck, is that when we have to make rhythm guitar parts, we could use these notes and these other chords to come up with parts that sound like a hook or have an identity to them. So let's say a songwriter came to me and said, hey, I have this new song and it goes like this. Just driving eighths on a C chord. Well, there's not much to that really draws a listener in. So I have to come up with some kind of melody or some hook or something that's going to give this an identity. So let's start by adding in a sus4, and I'll do that down here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll go back and forth between a 4 and 5. That sounds cool. Already it's something more that a listener can remember or recognize if it came on the radio. We also have a 4 up here. Cool. How about a C add 9? How about we put those together? All right, so pretty pop rocky, but these are universal ideas that you could apply to any style, and they immediately give you more ideas as a rhythm guitar player. You're not randomly looking for things. You know what your options are around that chord shape. Really, really important. Okay, let's talk about soloing. Each one of these chord tones has a different feeling or sound within the chord. They'll have a different meaning to a listener. You could think of them like different punctuation at the end of sentences. So like a root will feel very finite. The 3rd will bring out the quality of the chord. Is it major? Is it minor? And the 5th is a little like a question mark. So I make choices when I'm improvising based on how those different chord tones sound and feel. So that's why it's so important that I know exactly where they all are within a chord shape. These are all points of resolve. Everything that's not root third fifth is a tension note. And playing around with tension and release is what creates drama in music. So let me show you a phrase that lands on a 4, and you could hear how it's a little incomplete. That does not sound like a complete idea against the C chord. But if I resolve that down to a 3, that feels like the end of a statement. That feels like a complete idea, especially if I leave a little breath there after I hit one of those chord tones. That really lets the listener know that I've just made a statement, I've completed an idea, I'm about to make another statement or sentence or phrase, however you want to think about it. So you could do this with every one of the chord tones here using the scale as the highway. 3, how about to the 5? How about to the 3 down an octave? And then to that root, that really finite chord tone. This stuff is so helpful when you're improvising and trying to play tasty and good phrases and melodies that make sense, or play phrases that just have a destination that aren't meandering. Now, we just did this with one chord shape and one scale. There's all like 5 positions of the neck that we could repeat this on, not to mention all the different chord shapes, chord qualities, different scales. There's so much that we could do with this. If you want a systematic way for really learning the major scales across the neck, starting from any finger, any string, any position, and really seeing them weave their way through all those 5 cage shapes, go check out that course. It's really helpful. 10 lessons that will take you through all this stuff, show you a million different ways to make major scales. You'll be writing them out in all 12 major keys. You'll be memorizing all your key signatures, knowing a bunch of scale patterns. Even if you've been playing for a long time, I think it's a really helpful course to go through. Hey, if you enjoyed this lesson, please be sure to subscribe and hit that like button. That stuff really helps me out. And go check out my educational site, The Inspired Guitarist. I have courses there, jam tracks, I do live masterclasses, all that good stuff. I'll put the link down below. See you in there.